Episode 171. Go Get Her. Corey remained silent, while Logan continued to stare at the ceiling, deep in thought. Logan had been peppering him with questions about Lionel, and now had suggested that Chloe would be better off without him. Corey didn't understand what Logan was thinking, but he knew it wasn't going to be good. Logan rubbed chin, and then finally broke his silence. Get the investigators to follow Lionel for a few days. I want to know where he goes, what he does, who he sees, on a daily basis, Logan ordered. Since you said Lionel is not a very nice person, let's help Chloe take out the trash from her life. She is Violet's cousin, after all. We'll just treat it as a personal favor. Corey wanted to know what Logan was up to. Why the sudden interest in trying to break up Lionel and Chloe? But Chloe and Violet hate each other. Corey decided to state the obvious. Yes, they do, Logan replied, but didn't elaborate on what he was thinking. Anyways, Lionel treated Violet badly in the past, so naturally he could be doing the same to Chloe now. Have Lionel followed for the next 3 days. Also, gather more information on his background and reputation. I want to see what else people have to say about him. Sir, Corey was a bit worried about the cruel glint in Logan's eyes. Just do it. Logan waved his hand, indicating that Corey should leave and get to work. After Corey exited, Logan slowly lifted the corner of his mouth and swiveled his office chair to look out the window. Perhaps it wouldn't be too long before there would be drama to watch unfold. Miranda was too concerned about him and Violet. Logan decided that she had too much free time on her hands. Time for Logan to find something else for her to worry about. However, not long after, Corey returned with a slightly flustered expression on his face. Logan glanced up from the contract he was reading. Corey quickly opened his phone and turned it around to show Logan. On the screen, there was a picture of Violet standing in front of Noah, and she was drenched. Had a lemon in her hair? Opposite them stood a furious Miranda. The title of the article read, Director of the Kingston Group tries to throw drink on lawyer, Noah Smith, but Violet Kingston intercepts it. What? Logan slammed his palm on the desk. What the hell was Violet thinking? She only acted so recklessly when she was with Noah. And why the hell was she with Noah in the first place? Hadn't Logan sent him off on a fool's errand out of the country? When had he gotten back? Logan tried to call Violet, but she didn't answer. He was anxious and furious, so he turned to Corey. Go get her and bring her back here. Now. And Noah? Corey asked as he quickly started to move towards the door and out of Logan's line of fire. Bring them both to me. Logan seethed. Violet was reckless. Why would she do something so stupid? Did she need to be put under constant supervision? And why was she with Noah? Violet said they were just friends, but their relationship seemed to be much deeper than his own relationship with Violet. Thinking about her pleasant attitude towards Noah, or any time Violet had given Noah a sweet smile, Logan grew more furious. Those were his sweet smiles, not Noah's. Here Violet was, playing the heroine to Noah's damsel in distress. Would Violet take a glass of water in the face for him? Logan thought with the way she was always arguing with him. It was more likely that Violet would be the one throwing it. The more Logan thought about it, the angrier he got. When Violet was brought back here, she was getting a good lecture, and the same went for Noah. It was time they both learned their lesson. Logan had had enough. Violet and Noah were still at the restaurant, stuck in the drama. Outside, many people were holding their phones up to take pictures, so Miranda started to tell her tragic story to anyone who would listen. She told everyone that the Kingston family cared about Violet still. They didn't appreciate that she was plotting to steal the family's property. Violet didn't care to argue with Miranda. Let her say whatever she wanted to say. Violet had never been able to stop her before. Why try now? Thankfully, Logan had been rubbing off on Violet. She was much better at being cold and calm than she used to be. This was a great situation to put her new skills into practice. Violet didn't care anymore. She was tired and just wanted to leave. She was still wet, and what she really wanted to do was go home and take a nice hot shower. She pulled Noah to her side, but was stopped by Miranda. "Is this how you treat your own aunt?" She appeared to be actually hurt, which caused the surrounding crowd to criticize Violet too. Miranda was Violet's aunt, so some accused Violet of not respecting her elders. "What happened to the security guard? Where's the manager? Is this how this restaurant ensures the safety of their customers?" Noah's words became harsh. "Miranda, you should take better care of your precious reputation. You should be acting like a dignified businesswoman, not making a scene in a restaurant. When this gets out, I don't know what people will consider more embarrassing, your behavior, or that this restaurant you brought me to doesn't even have proper security." Noah turned and glared at the restaurant owner standing nearby. The owner was a woman of about Miranda's age, and by the scowl on her face, she seemed to have decided to ignore who had been the aggressor and take Miranda's side. "Aren't you always the one fearing that others are embarrassing your precious daughter? And yet this is the way you act?" Violet shook her head at Miranda in disgust. "There's nothing more important than a good reputation. Isn't that what you're always saying, Miranda?" "You should watch your tone, Kingston. It's really not fair for you and your lawyer to be bullying her, 2 against 1. The restaurant owner gave Violet a disapproving look. "Perhaps it's you who should be watching what you're saying. Or is this restaurant in the habit of allowing patrons to attack one another?" A man's voice called out as he entered the restaurant through the back entrance. Violet looked up and saw Corey walking towards them. She was relieved and panicked all at once when she saw him. Relieved knowing Corey would help get them out of the mess, but panicked because this meant that Logan had already heard what had happened. Violet could feel a lecture coming on. The restaurant owner obviously didn't know who Corey was. When she saw the arrogant look on his face, she was quite annoyed. The owner was just about to ridicule him or ask security to kick him out when Miranda spoke. She called him Corey and asked if he was nearby. Why would Logan be nearby? He certainly wouldn't be coming to dine at this restaurant, Corey said with a sniff as he looked around, then added, "It's in the valley." As far as Corey was concerned, Logan dining in the valley would be like Logan dining on Mars. "Logan just asked me to come over and pick up Noah and Violet. He has something urgent to discuss with Noah," Corey explained. "What a coincidence," Miranda said, dryly. Logan was clearly coming to Violet's rescue by sending Corey to fetch her from the restaurant. Elizabeth and Logan had been together for 4 years and had barely even dined together. It seemed like Logan hadn't turned his back on Violet. Hadn't Chloe's spy said that Agnes presented their falsified report to Logan? And yet, here Logan was, once again playing knight in shining armor for Violet. It seemed that no matter how much mud the Kingstons threw at her, Violet always came out smelling like roses, even when she had lemons in her hair. Episode 172. Logan wants to see you. Corey claimed Logan had sent him to come pick up Noah and Violet at the restaurant because he had an urgent business matter to discuss with Noah. Miranda wasn't buying it, though. Clearly, Corey had been sent by Logan to come rescue Violet. Apparently, Logan hadn't given up on Violet yet, despite Miranda's best slanderous efforts. "We had been trying to reach you, Noah, when Logan happened to see a photo online that showed you and Violet were here, no doubt posted by one of these people." Corey waved at the small crowd of nosy bystanders that had gathered at the restaurant. "Noah, we couldn't get through to you even though we tried calling you multiple times. Did your phone battery die or something?" "Yeah, sorry about that," Noah replied. "I haven't had a chance to charge it since I got off the plane, and then I was delayed by Miranda and, well, all this here, and forgot about our meeting." Noah picked up the briefcase behind him and prepared to leave with Violet and Corey. "Noah, You should really be more careful with the company you keep. You don't want to be bad-mouthed by people with ulterior motives, Corey commented with a meaningful look at Miranda. The people didn't dare to make a sound while they watched the show play out. Miranda, who was standing off to the side, was so angry that her face turned red. Was Corey referring to her? Had she just been secretly ridiculed by him? Corey, you needn't concern yourself with this matter. Noah and I were just having a civil business conversation. There's no need to come to anyone's rescue. Miranda cast a sidelong glance at Violet out of the corner of her eye. I'm just doing what my boss asked me to do, Corey replied with false politeness. Miranda was not pleased that Corey had been hastily sent here by Logan to rescue Violet. Why was Logan still protecting Violet, after all the false information Miranda and Chloe had planted about her? Miranda was a little nervous. If Logan was willing to help Violet because she had been splashed with a drink, would he eventually decide to help Violet take back controlling interest in the Kingston group? Miranda knew the Kingstons would be in trouble if Logan were to give up his neutral position in the matter. Miranda, I also want to make something perfectly clear, Corey added. My boss would not be pleased with the spectacle you have created here today. Logan cares about his business partners and employees. Since Noah and Violet fall into both these categories, I naturally have to make sure that they are being treated fairly. What Corey said was true, of course, but he was also downplaying the truth. Everyone knew the relationship between Violet and Logan was not strictly professional, that they were more than just secretary and boss. Since the restaurant owner now knew who Corey worked for, she did not dare to stop him from leaving. The security guards who had been called over earlier also did not dare to touch Corey, so they quickly pushed the crowd back and let Corey escort Noah and Violet outside. Miranda could not oppose Corey anymore, so she let them leave without saying more. She sat back down at the dining table and looked out the window as the three of them walked away. After Corey had left with Violet and Noah, she called the restaurant owner over to pour her a cup of tea. Miranda needed to think, given the day's latest developments. She had to ensure that nothing went wrong the night of the upcoming press conference. So Miranda sat there for a long time, sipping her tea and plotting her next move. Once Noah and Violet were seated in Corey's car, safely away from Miranda and the crowd of bystanders prying eyes and ears, Noah turned to Violet. Okay, so now that we're alone, what are you doing here, Violet? What made you come to the restaurant? Didn't you tell me the time and place? Violet replied, then shrugged. I had nothing better to do, so I came to take a look. I thought there must be a reason Miranda wanted to meet with you, and since I don't trust her, I came to see for myself. Actually, Miranda had almost achieved her goal. Noah shook his head and smiled, thinking back on his conversation with Miranda. But it doesn't matter. We just want to take back the Kingston group. We don't need to be the benchmark of morality. What do you mean? Violet did not understand what Noah was talking about. She couldn't figure it out. You are still so innocent, Violet. Never mind. As long as Logan doesn't care about what happened today, it doesn't matter. It was unknown whether these words were meant for Violet or for Corey. Violet couldn't help but be a little nervous when she realized that rather than taking Noah and Violet home, Corey was taking them to Smith Group headquarters. Violet knew that there were many rumors going around the company about her and Logan, so she didn't usually venture to the office unless she had a good reason. While she had grown a pretty thick skin thanks to Logan, Violet figured why show her face unnecessarily around the office and add fuel to the fire. She'd rather avoid any potential confrontations with her coworkers. The three of them headed straight for Logan's office when they arrived. As they waited for the elevator, Corey and Noah, without even saying anything to each other, instinctively positioned themselves around Violet to block her from any curious gazes. A group of employees was gathered in the lobby on the first floor, dissecting today's latest gossip, surrounding the confusing relationship between Logan, Violet, and now Noah. One of the gossipers was excitedly waving their phone and directing the others to the front page of a popular news site. Someone else gasped when they opened their phone. Violet groaned internally. What was the matter now? What else could they be reporting on? Was it yet another article about Logan's love life? Everyone took out their cells to check. The moment they opened their phones, everyone saw a message sent by Garrett Gardner of the Laurie Group. A guy Violet recognized as a mailroom employee began to read aloud to the others. Against the malicious slander of Violet Kingston, the Laurie Group has the right to pursue legal responsibility. The post was about the contract between Violet and the Laurie Group and Garrett's defense of Violet. Damn, Violet is out of control. There's so much drama surrounding her. First Logan Alexander and now Garrett Gardner? A woman from accounting said excitedly. Garrett had sent the message personally, which proved that not only did he have a professional relationship with Violet, but he also considered Violet a friend. Not only was he a friend, but he was also very protective of their friendship. She's not even that pretty. Really pretty ordinary, if you ask me. Seems like the only thing Violet has going for her is her family name, added the CFO's assistant with a sniff. The woman had never been particularly nice to her. Now Violet knew why. Clearly, Mr. Alexander has bad taste in women. Seems like he has the tendency to be drawn to scheming, malicious ones, the CFO's assistant added. Are you kidding me? Violet is smoking hot. I'm sure the boss doesn't care what her last name is with a body like that, argued the mailroom employee. Violet didn't know if she should be thankful, insulted, or creeped out by the mailman's defense. Thankfully, the elevator had finally arrived, and she was quickly ushered inside by Noah and Corey before anyone realized she was standing nearby. As the door started to shut, she heard a new man's voice ring out. Obviously, Mr. Alexander is not giving you all enough work to do if you have time to stand around and gossip. Why don't I get a list of all your names so Logan knows exactly which of his employees has extra time in their day to talk shit? Drake stated loudly. Violet smiled as the elevator doors snapped shut. She'd always liked Drake. The employees in the lobby all turned to see who had spoken with such venomous tongue and recognized Corey's assistant Drake standing there. Drake mostly kept to himself around the office. His co-workers didn't hear him say much, but it wasn't because he had nothing to say. Rather, because Drake worked directly for Logan and Corey, he had little time left over in his day to chat. And like his bosses, Drake didn't suffer fools. He had no problem telling people off when necessary. In fact, he was kind of like Logan's protege in the ripping people's heads off department, so his fellow employees generally stayed out of his way. The CFO's assistant, who had been bad-mouthing Violet the loudest, must not have gotten the memo not to piss off Drake. She had the audacity to turn to him with her head held high and continue to slander Violet in front of everyone. Drake turned to the woman with a very Loganish smile. Oh, this was going to be fun, he decided. Episode 173. Consequences. Drake stood eyeing the leader of the group of employees he had caught gossiping about Logan and Violet in the lobby. While most of his coworkers had been smart enough to immediately quit talking, the CFO's assistant, who had been leading the slanderous comments about Violet, wasn't backing down. With Drake now standing there ready to take down the names of the gossipers, most of the employees suddenly cared more about their paychecks than who their boss was sleeping with. But as her coworkers started to try and slink off back to their workstations, the assistant stood her ground. I have just as much right as anyone to speak my mind. It's called freedom of speech, the assistant proclaimed angrily. Drake put his hands on his hips and inspected the woman. He knew she worked for the CFO, but he couldn't remember her name. Was it Cindy? What's your name? Drake asked her. Mindy, she replied. Well, Mindy, since you like to speak your mind so much, Why don't I take you to see the boss directly, and you can speak your mind directly to Logan's face? Drake offered her a sly smile. Mindy hesitated a moment, then straightened her shoulders. Okay, sure. All right, take me to see him. I've got a couple of things I'd like to tell him. He's acting foolishly, and if he doesn't stop sooner or later, the board will want to replace him. Was she for real? Drake wondered. But aloud, he asked Mindy, and who do you think should take Logan's place, seeing as how you're the expert and all? Drake asked her. Due to the collaboration with the Lori Group, Logan had recently been having disagreements with the old guard in the company. That, in conjunction with the media storm surrounding Logan's love life, had made the board unhappy. Drake knew that they were trying to challenge his position, but he was surprised this Mindy was ready to take on Logan too. Drake decided it was time to call her bluff. Drake pretended to guide the woman towards the elevator. Okay, so I can get you in to see Logan right now if you want. I know he has a short break in his schedule before his next conference call. Quick question, did you bring your own box, or do you want me to find one for you? Drake amiably asked Mindy. A box? Mindy asked nervously. You know, for your personal belongings. You'll need something to carry your things in when security escorts you out of the building, Drake replied innocently. When security escorts me out? Mindy was looking a lot less sure of herself. Well, of course, Drake said. I mean, I'm sure you realize you won't get 2 sentences out before the boss fires you. But good for you for speaking your mind and your defense of free speech and all that. When the other employees heard Drake say this, everyone became anxious and quickly surrounded them. Some of the employees pleaded with Drake to drop it, and some of Mindy's coworkers begged her to swallow her pride and apologize. One of the men, who was a little older than Drake, and judging from his uniform was in the security department, said nothing as he watched the scene unfold. Drake noticed that Mindy would occasionally look in the guard's direction. He knew that there must be something going on between the two. Drake decided that he'd have to go back and report this whole situation to Corey and investigate these 2 dodgy employees. Everyone was still talking at the same time and finally convinced Mindy to back down and not go complaining directly to Logan. They quickly ushered her away before Drake changed his mind about letting her go. So Drake got in the elevator alone, and then smirked all the way to the top floor. Seeing Drake take the elevator upstairs, the other employees quickly took the woman to the canteen. This time, they were not gossiping. They were blaming her for being reckless. Gossiping was supposed to be a way to relieve the stress of their workdays, not increase it. If Logan found out about this, they were sure that not only Mindy, but the rest of them too would be fired. They reminded her that they all had bills to pay, and that no other company pays better than the Smith Group. When they informed her that the next time they were talking, Mindy wasn't going to join them. Their loyalties were now abandoned, and everyone then headed back to their cubicles, leaving Mindy feeling indignant about her coworkers' betrayal. People are trash. They're acting as if they also weren't speaking ill of people behind their backs just now. Mindy was still cursing to herself in a low voice when someone walked past the table where she sat. Mindy got up and poured herself a coffee and placed it on the table. Then she pulled out a chair and sat down. She then smiled knowingly and took a sip of her coffee. Logan was very angry, but he hadn't admitted to himself yet why he was so angry. When Violet and Noah entered his office, followed by Corey, who then closed the door behind them, Logan looked up at Violet coldly, and then got even angrier. Did Noah and Violet have to stand side by side like that? It was so annoying. Well, you certainly know how to let everyone in LA know you're home, Noah. How long ago did your plane land? 3 hours ago? 4? Logan scowled at him. Well, Violet thought, seemed like Logan was not just going to lecture her, but Noah as well. He was obviously mad at both of them. Logan saw the photos and comments about the 2 of you online, Corey explained. I mean, those of you 2 in the restaurant, that is. Wow, Violet thought to herself. She might have just beaten her personal record best time in going viral. Well, Miranda at least will be happy she got photos, since her plan to get me on tape saying something incriminating failed, Noah said with a smile. You know she records conversations too? Logan coldly harumphed. Of course I know. Not only do I know that Miranda has ulterior motives, I know all her dirty tricks, Noah informed Logan. But Miranda's not the only reason for that scowl on your face. I'm assuming you're also feeling irritated because of the Lori group? Well, aren't you the perceptive one today, Noah? Logan said snidely. He was not in a good mood. Logan caught Violet secretly looking at him out of the corner of his eye. She looked nervous. Good. She should be nervous, and she should remember who her man was, too. I don't need to be perceptive. All anyone has to do is take a look at the scowl on your face to know you're angry. Noah was jet-lagged and exhausted. He didn't feel like dealing with Logan's bad mood. Corey was afraid that the two of them would get into an argument, so he quickly asked Noah about the business trip he had just taken on behalf of Logan. Corey's question made Noah even more unhappy, though. He was still annoyed Logan had sent him overseas on such a useless business trip. Yeah, well, when I have 5 minutes, I'll type up my notes, since 5 minutes is all I need to describe anything useful that came out of my trip, Noah muttered discontentedly, then added in a louder voice, But thanks for the opportunity to waste my time, Logan. Just understand that now you owe me a favor. I'll cash it out with you when I need to. Why should I owe you a favor? Logan was very dissatisfied, but he was also afraid that Noah would expose his bogus reasons for sending Noah on his business trip. So he tried to calm his anger a bit when he spoke. You owe me a favor for wasting my time, the time I could have been spending on Violet's case. And given that Miranda's hastily calling meetings and throwing drinks, seems like my cease and desist letter has gotten the Kingston's attention. Noah put the letter he had prepared in front of Logan and let him have a good look. You can scare the Kingston family with just a legal document? Logan frowned in doubt. Yes, Logan. It's called going through the proper legal channels. It is possible to let the Kingstons know that we are serious in a completely legal way, Noah answered him. Otherwise, they will think that we're just trying to scare them off. Don't try. Just do it. Logan's eyes darkened. But you should know that Miranda is not to be trifled with. Seems like I have already provoked her. There's nothing I can do about it now. As long as you don't add fuel to the fire by protecting them, I feel like the Kingston family won't be that difficult to deal with. Noah gave Logan a pointed look as he spoke. Thinking about the Kingston family gave Logan a headache. He had been helping the Kingstons, especially Elizabeth, for years, never knowing what they were really like. Now he had to extract himself from their financial relationship in a way that didn't hurt their mutual interests. If he helped destroy the Kingston group outright, it would impact some of the Smith Group's joint investments. Logan rubbed his head. As Smith Group CEO, he couldn't allow Noah to succeed in destroying the Kingston. But as Violet's man, he also couldn't allow Noah to fail. Episode 174. Go ahead and laugh. Even though Logan was concerned about how best to handle Violet's fight with the Kingston group, he kept his thoughts to himself for the moment. Since the Kingston group rightfully belonged to Violet, he might have to help get it back for her despite Smith Group's joint investments with the Kingstons. How to handle this was a puzzle Logan hadn't yet solved, but right now he had other, more important matters to discuss. Logan was done talking to Noah for the moment. He waved his hand and asked Noah to find a place to sit. Violet started to follow Noah to the sofa, but Logan stopped her with a firm grip on her wrist. No, you come here. Violet was only slightly stunned for a moment, and then she quickly cooperated and walked around Logan's desk towards him. Logan, do you have something you want to discuss with me? Violet asked innocently. Would I call you here if there is nothing to discuss? He retorted. Did she really not know why he had summoned them? Was she pretending not to be close with Noah? Was he not as important as Noah? Did she want to date him instead? Logan was rambling on in his head, but he didn't actually dare to ask any of those questions out loud. If he asked, Violet might say yes, and he didn't want to think about how that would make him feel. Logan thought that even though he and Violet didn't know each other as well in some aspect, they were extremely familiar with each other's bodies. Theirs was an intimate relationship, and shouldn't be comparable to her relationship with Noah. If she thought of Noah as family, then Violet should treat him like her brother or cousin. A distant cousin, preferably. Noah sat down and took something out of his briefcase, but he did not notice the tension between Violet and Logan. But Corey did. He pretended to hold the iPad on his hand and read the schedule of the afternoon meetings. He didn't want to look over at Logan and Violet and have Logan turn his fury on an easier target. So instead, Corey diligently pretended not to notice anything. "Look at this." Logan turned his phone towards Violet. He was showing her the statement sent out by Garrett, which clearly stated that he would stand on Violet's side. Noticing their exchange, Noah asked Corey to send him a copy of Garrett's statement so he could read it too. "Why did you let her sign a contract with the Lori Group again?" Noah had still not fully digested the relationship between Violet and Logan, and now Garrett was coming into play. Noah would definitely not lose his temper with Violet, so he decided instead that this newest development must be Logan's fault somehow. "It is your business to deal with Garrett however you want, but don't drag Violet into this," Noah added unhappily. "How is this my fault?" Logan raised his eyebrows and spread his hands in exasperation. He had not yet asked why the two of them had met at the restaurant and hidden it from him, and now Noah was questioning him on this? Logan figured this was all Noah's fault. He was Violet's lawyer after all. Hadn't he ever told his favorite client she shouldn't sign any contracts without consulting him first? "Are you suggesting that it's my fault?" Noah rolled his eyes. Had he made a mistake by coming back to Los Angeles at this time, he wondered? Noah didn't want Violet to become the cannon fodder in a war between the Alexanders and the Gardners. He just wanted to ensure that the Kingston group would be returned to Violet's hands safe and sound. "I guess I'll have to ask your good friend about whose fault this is then," Logan coldly harumphed while looking directly at Violet. "Well, since you are my good friend too, Logan, then why are you so anxious? What does her contract have to do with you?" Noah asked him. As far as Noah was concerned, Logan had brought all this on himself when he had forced his own contract on Violet. Karma was a bitch. "She is my secretary and my estate manager. Now that she has a relationship with the Lori Group, do you think I shouldn't be anxious?" "You know what? You're right. I shouldn't be anxious. Why don't I just pack her up in a little box, tie a bow around her, and drop her off at the entrance of the Lori Group? They can have her." Logan started to attack with his venomous tongue. "You seem quite upset, Logan. I'm sure it's hard when you aren't able to control everyone and everything in your world through your tricks," Noah said. "What tricks?" Logan stared at Noah coldly. "Why don't you tell me all about it?" "Logan, stop this right now. This isn't the way to have a good conversation. If you have something to say, then just say it. Don't waste everyone's time with your mind games. We can't always guess what you're thinking, so just spit it out. Right, Corey?" Violet interjected. Corey didn't answer. He was too busy holding back his laughter, but he didn't show it on his face. He appeared calm on the surface. Violet couldn't hold it anymore. She was used to Logan's coldness, so she wasn't scared of him. She just let him have it and then turned around and smiled. Corey couldn't see the expression on her face, but her shoulders were shaking. Obviously, she was trying not to laugh as well. She even smiled with genuine feeling. She secretly glanced at Noah and gave him a praising look. It required a lot of courage to confront Logan face to face, but Noah was doing it. She wouldn't expect anything less of the godfather of her children and her good friend. "If you want to laugh, laugh. Go ahead, I won't stop you," Logan said as he lazily leaned on the back of his chair and cracked his knuckles, replicating the sound of thunder. Then he looked over at Corey, who was about to burst out laughing, and said, "I'm not talking about you." Then Logan glared at Violet again. Corey immediately tried to hold it in, but the thought this was blatant discrimination. He was Logan's assistant, and he didn't even have the freedom to laugh. It was inhumane. However, Logan had said Violet could laugh, and so she was now doing so, heartily. So Corey didn't mind this double standard too much. You can laugh, but I will deduct your salary if you do, Logan added. Violet immediately scowled at Logan and looked at Noah with a grievance. If he's just deducting your salary, it's okay. I will reimburse you, Noah reassured her. Noah crossed his legs lazily, leaned back against the sofa, and started reading the documents. He was not in a hurry to leave. In fact, it looked like he was prepared to spend half a day there if necessary. Are you done laughing yet? If you are, can you tell me why Garrett sent this message? Logan calmly waited for Violet to turn around, and then he stared at her unblinkingly. Sorry, Logan, I didn't mean it, Violet said through her laughter. It was just too funny. Whenever Logan occasionally suffered a loss, he got this expression on his face that was both proud and aggrieved, and also inexplicably a bit cute. Somehow she found it adorably funny. Violet thought that her brain must be malfunctioning if she was thinking her devil of a boss was adorable and cute. Do you think you can still stand here right now, or do you need to sit down and rest after all that laughing? Logan asked her. Violet shook her head no in response. Logan let his eyes sweep over Violet's body as she laughed. When he noticed her chest heaving heavily from all her laughter, his eyes darkened. At that, Violet finally stopped laughing. She had a feeling she would be paying for the consequences for laughing at Logan when they went home together tonight. Unfortunately for Logan, that didn't sound like much of a punishment to Violet. Episode 176. Garrett saved the day. Logan's tone wasn't very nice, and he clearly wanted him to leave, but Noah didn't care. Noah had long grown accustomed to Logan's temper. He would be more surprised if Logan was in a good mood than a bad one. Noah was concerned about Violet. Logan was right, she looked uncomfortable. They'd all just been informed that George had been in a car accident shortly after arriving back in Los Angeles. Violet was blaming herself for the fact that George was now in a coma. She'd asked Logan to find George, so she figured this was her fault. Noah, of course, knew Violet was blameless. The accident had clearly been the work of the Kingston family. If Violet's not comfortable, I will take her home to rest. Violet, let's go, Noah said. No, I want to go to the hospital to see George, Violet replied with a stubborn shake of her head. What is there to see if he's unconscious? Logan replied in annoyance. He was seriously irritated with Noah after the day's events, and now it seemed like Violet wanted Noah to comfort her and not him. Logan didn't like their close relationship. Noah said that he didn't like Violet, that they were just friends, but Logan wasn't buying it. Didn't you say you don't like her? Logan asked Noah before he could stop himself. What do you mean? Noah was confused by Logan's sudden question. Of course I like Violet. We are like family. Yes, that's what you both keep saying, isn't it? Logan replied suspiciously. What about you, Logan? Do you like Violet? Noah asked him with a glint in his eye. Noah was starting to realize why Logan was in such a foul temper. Noah's question caused Logan to choke on his words. He couldn't just say yes. Violet was just a plaything, a temporary diversion. She didn't mean anything to him. And yet Logan couldn't seem to get the words out to deny anything in response to Noah's question. Logan opened his mouth, then shut it, saying nothing, opting instead to glare at Noah in a warning. Men were so childish. Violet didn't have the energy for this spat between Logan and Noah. She just wanted to go to the hospital to see George. Since she insisted, and because he couldn't think of what to say, Logan finally agreed to let someone take Violet to the hospital. He also coldly emphasized that he was very busy and wouldn't be going with her. Violet didn't mind. She picked up her handbag from the sofa and walked out of the office. Noah quickly followed her. He had nothing better to do at the moment, so he offered to accompany her to the hospital. Before Logan could react, Noah was already out the door. Drake came in then, carrying a document that Corey had told him was urgent that Logan sign. He successfully, although unintentionally, stopped Logan from chasing after the two of them. "What is this?" Logan's eyes were burning with anger. Drake truly had the worst timing. He hadn't just stopped anyone. He'd stopped him, Logan. And for what? What was he thinking? "I urgently need you to take a look at this signed contract. Corey just called me and asked me to bring it to you," Drake told him. Corey had asked Drake to take care of a lot of things while he was at the hospital, so it must be important. Logan ran his fingers through his hair in frustration, but then sat back down at his desk. He was still worried about Violet and couldn't stop thinking about her, so he sent a message to the driver and asked him to pay attention to Noah and Violet's movement. If anyone seemed to be a threat to Violet, the driver must think of a way to stop them. Logan also asked him to make sure that the two of them weren't left alone, but not to be obvious about it. God, Logan thought, throwing his phone back down on his desk. He was losing it. There was this new emotion raging inside of him, making him act in unfamiliar ways. Logan wasn't ready to admit it to himself, but he was starting to think that this must be what jealousy felt like. It took less than 30 minutes to drive to the Central Hospital. Before Violet could stop and think about where to go, she hurriedly headed straight to the inpatient department, which she thought was on the 10th floor of the new building. It was the place that the Alexander family and the company reserved for their patients. She knew about it because she had been taken there herself when she was hospitalized after the kidnapping. She tried to take the elevator, but it was still up on the 12th floor. She couldn't wait any longer, so she decided to take the stairs instead. She was very anxious to see George. Noah saw her run into the building as soon as the car stopped. Just as he was about to chase after her, his phone rang. "Mr. Smith, please answer the phone call. I'll go after Miss Kingston." The driver nodded at him and left him sitting in the car. Then he chased after Violet. Mr. Alexander had told him to ensure Miss Kingston's safety, so he had to oblige. Otherwise, knowing his boss, he wouldn't have his job very long. Violet went upstairs. She didn't know which floor she was on when she started to pant, but she pushed through the pain and kept going. After a while, she noticed that it had already gotten dark outside. Although there were many lights outside the building, the staircase wasn't very well lit. The lights were probably broken. Violet had just reached the top of the stairs and was about to walk inside the 10th floor hall when a person rushed out from the security door and knocked her back. Ouch! Her shoulder hit the railing. Luckily, Violet desperately held onto the railing, otherwise she might have rolled down the stairs. A man fiercely looked back at her. He was wearing dark glasses and a hat. The staircase was so dark that Violet couldn't see clearly, but she found his face seemed strangely familiar. Where had she seen him before? The man narrowed his eyes when he saw Violet staring at him intensely, desperately trying to recognize him. He was very angry. He held the thing in his hand tightly and ran towards Violet. Before Violet could react, he had already closed in on her. He seemed to be carrying something in his right hand that was emitting a cold light in the darkness. What was that? Violet's blood almost froze. She opened her eyes wide and watched as the light rapidly approached her. However, she had completely lost the ability to dodge anything. She was still in a daze due to the collision. At this critical moment, she suddenly heard the sound of footsteps coming from the hallway, as well as the sound of people talking loudly. The man immediately stopped and put the thing he was holding away. He quickly climbed upstairs and disappeared within the blink of an eye. Heavens! What had just happened? Violet's entire body was covered in a cold sweat. She seemed to have escaped another disaster miraculously. Again, the sound of footsteps and voices reached her ears. This time, she could make out what they were saying. "Don't let this happen again. This is the private floor for the Smith Group. You should know better." The security door was pushed open, and Violet was exposed to the shaft of light that emerged. "Violet?" It was a man's voice. It was gentle and elegant and familiar. "Garrett?" Violet asked. She looked up and saw that it was indeed Garrett standing there. She had never been so happy to see a familiar face. She thought that Garrett had never looked more handsome than he did in this moment. Garrett! Her legs were weak, and she did not even have the strength to speak. Garrett quickly kneeled down beside her. "What happened to you, Violet? Are you not feeling well?" he asked with concern. Violet let out a long breath, and her face turned pale. Garrett helped her get into the 10th hall corridor and had her sit down on a chair nearby. She looked at him carefully. He wore a dark cashmere sweater and a pair of tailored gray pants. He was tall and athletic, and had a gentle look on his face. He had a completely different demeanor from Logan. She was relieved to see him. But why was Garrett here? Violet didn't have anything against Garrett, but she knew that Logan didn't like him, so she was always a bit cautious around him to avoid arousing suspicion. But now she only felt grateful. If it wasn't for Garrett, perhaps that man would have done something bad to her. She just didn't know who that person was and why he had appeared on the hospital stairs. He'd come from the 10th floor. Had he been targeting George? Violet suddenly stood in a panic. Her body swayed and she almost fell to the ground. At this moment, the elevator doors opened and the driver came out. When he saw Garrett and Violet together, he immediately ran over and pushed Garrett to the side. "Miss Kingston, I'm sorry. I chased after you, but I couldn't find you," the driver apologized. It's okay. I just came across someone on the stairs. He scared me to death. I thought he was going to hurt me," Violet told them. Garrett scowled. How could Logan let something like this happen to you? What was he thinking? Good thing I got here when I did. Episode 177. Not to be trifled with. Garrett had come to the hospital to look for a doctor. More specifically, the doctor who had treated Violet previously. The doctor's office was not on this floor. His assistant had taken Garrett to the wrong place, and it had ended up being a blessing in disguise, because Violet had been attacked and he'd saved her by accident. "Mr. Gardner, I'm sorry. We only have the hospital's security guards on this floor. No one from the Smith group has been sent here yet. I will contact Corey now." The driver didn't know how to deal with Garrett, so he had to find someone more capable to come over and fix this. "If it wasn't for you, I really don't know what would have happened to me. I can't thank you enough." Violet thanked him. No matter what kind of person Garrett was, Violet felt that she should thank him for what had happened just now. "No need to thank me. I was just passing by. And anyways, do you know who that was that attacked you? Why would he want to harm you?" Garrett was quite curious. He felt that Violet was a mystery woman who always seemed to find herself in troublesome situations. The more he found out about Violet, the more Garrett wanted to know. "He looked vaguely familiar. I think I've seen him somewhere before, but I can't recall where. I think he probably came for George." George knew a lot of secrets about the Kingston family, especially because he had served Kenneth Kingston for so many years. George knew many things, some things that Violet and even Charles didn't know about. George? Garrett didn't know him. "Oh, he was my grandfather's butler. He helped him with family affairs and he watched me grow up. After I left the country..." Violet smiled awkwardly as she stopped mid-sentence. She realized that Garrett and Elizabeth were close and probably confided in each other. If Garrett revealed any of this information to the Kingston family and let them know about George's current situation, perhaps they would take action and get rid of him on the spot. "Yes? Go on. What happened then?" Garrett was quite interested. He and Elizabeth didn't have a lot of topics to talk about. If he used the Kingston family as a starting point, perhaps they would be able to communicate better. "I wanted to bring him back to Los Angeles to talk to him. Who knew that he would suffer a car accident on the way here? That's why I came to see him. I just hope that he's going to be okay." Violet put her palms together, and her body trembled slightly. She looked very sad. "Worry. with the financial and material resources available to the Alexander family, they will do all they can for him. If you ever need anything, you can call me. I promised to help you before, and I meant it. Garrett curled the corner of his mouth. Thank you, Garrett. I will. When the time comes, I might just take you up on that offer. Violet forced a smile. Also, about that statement you put out, Violet began. Thank you very much for sticking up for me, but I don't care about those silly rumors. In the future, know that you don't have to go to any trouble because of me. In fact, the truth was that Violet didn't want to be criticized by Logan anymore. She was tired of fighting with him about her contract with Lori Group, and she didn't want to make the relationship between Garrett and Logan even more fragile because of her. Now that she had a signed contract with the Lori Group, Garrett was her boss too. Violet knew that she had to be careful going forward with what she said to each brother about the other. Logan had a bad temper, and Garrett wasn't someone to be trifled with either. You have already signed the contract with Lori Group. No matter what, we should still protect each other's image, Garrett said. Then Violet thought to herself. She didn't know if the confrontation with Miranda had brought any trouble to the company. Then, are there a lot of things that I need to pay attention to in the job? Even if you struggle a bit at first, it doesn't matter. The company still has its public relations team ready. As long as you work hard and cooperate with the music producers, it'll be fine. The sooner the song is produced, the better. I know Jay Fannin is anxious to get started. Yeah, I promise to start working on that next week. I hope I do a good job, Violet smiled. I have confidence you'll do great. Remember, if you have any questions, then find me. I'll help you. Topic had successfully shifted to Violet's new job. Didn't mind. Garrett looked like he was being very nice to Violet, Corey thought, as he walked towards them now. Unfortunately, it didn't matter what Garrett was saying to her, because Corey had direct orders from the boss he had to follow. Corey sighed. For the second time today, he was extracting Violet from another man's presence, as per Logan's request. No matter if the exchanges were innocent or not, Logan didn't care. When Corey approached, he first quickly separated the two of them while simultaneously avoiding insulting Garrett by flattering him and thanking him profusely for helping Violet. Then, Corey listened to all of Garrett's complaints about security and agreed with him that there was a security problem on the floor and Corey would get to the bottom of it. Finally, knowing that Violet was eager to go and visit George, Corey excused the two of them from Garrett's presence by saying they couldn't linger any longer because they must go visit the patient while they had the chance. Garrett smiled amiably and said he understood and walked away, much to Corey's relief. After entering the elevator, Garrett's smile promptly faded. He asked his assistant to get their investigators to find out everything they could about Violet and the Kingston's old butler, George. Garrett knew there was a story there, given Violet's nervous demeanor, and he wanted to know what it was. Violet, accompanied by Corey, went to find George. Unfortunately, George was in the ICU, and visitors weren't allowed in there. The doctor said that Violet could return in a couple of days, when hopefully George's condition would improve to the point where he could be moved to a regular hospital room. Violet was disappointed, but understood. She left her number at the nurse's station and told them to call her as soon as George was out of the ICU. Logan is actually feeling quite anxious because he didn't manage to complete the task that he promised to help you with. I think you should talk to him. After all, these types of situations are new to Logan. Corey knew that Logan felt bad about what had happened to George. The situation Corey was referring to was the situation between Violet and Logan. Corey could see that Logan was feeling jealous and insecure, if Logan would never admit it. Corey couldn't just come right out and tell Violet that Logan needed to be comforted, so he had to be a bit creative. Of course, I won't blame him, it's his fault. She looked at Corey for a few extra moments and then added, I know. I'll talk to him later. Violet and Corey had known each other for a long time now. Violet knew what Corey meant, even though the words were never spoken. When Corey and Violet came back to the car, Noah told her that he'd talked to Haley, and she'd said she would be flying back to LA the next day. He asked Violet to go and pick Haley up at the airport. Afterwards, the three of them could get a bite to eat, and they could fill Haley in on everything she'd missed. She'd been away on business. Adam and Amy come too if you want, added. Violet then remembered that she had not had the chance to tell Noah and Haley about Logan, Adam and Amy's father. He would tell them tomorrow night, when it was just the three of them, he decided. In the executive offices on the 16th floor of the Kingston Group building, Chloe was making coffee for Lionel. Chloe was there helping out because the secretary that Lionel had hired was a woman, which had made Chloe uncomfortable. When Chloe confronted Miranda and asked her why she had allowed her future husband to hire a female assistant, Miranda said it was so Chloe could test Lionel. Chloe didn't know why Miranda thought testing Lionel was a good idea. She was already paranoid about Lionel cheating on her with Violet. Chloe didn't want to also have to worry about what was going on between Lionel and his new secretary behind closed doors. But then again, Miranda had become Mrs. Kingston by working for Charles as his secretary. Chloe knew if anyone had cause to be suspicious, it was her mother. Episode 175. There's been an accident. Seeing that Violet had wisely now stopped laughing at him, Logan decided that it was time for them to get down to business. He was infuriated with Garrett for making a statement on behalf of Violet, but he had to be strategic in how he handled Lori Group's relationship with her. Logan knew his brother was likely up to no good, and they had to be cautious. We all know my brother is not to be trusted. So, suggestions on how we proceed with the matter? Logan asked Noah. When he spoke, Violet noticed that Logan's voice had gone a bit hoarse. She asked Logan if he was feeling okay. Logan was about to tell Violet that he felt fine, that he was just hoarse from yelling at everyone when inspiration struck him. Not one to pass up an opportunity, Logan promptly coughed again on purpose, indicating to Violet that he thought he might be coming down with something. Cough had the desired effect, and Violet promptly went into fussing mode. You'll have to remember to take some medicine before going to bed tonight, and I'll have Zoe make her chicken noodle soup for you for dinner, she told him. Violet then opened her phone to send Zoe a text. Now, this was more like it, Logan thought, feeling very satisfied with Violet's attentiveness. He looked at Noah smugly, and Logan's mood inexplicably improved. After debating the Lori Group issue a while longer, Noah expressed the same thoughts as Logan. Finally, they had reached a temporary agreement on how to deal with Garrett. What's next on the agenda, Noah? Logan asked. Do you remember the engagement I mentioned before? Noah looked at Violet. Honestly, she did remember what Noah had told them about the arranged marriage her grandfather had proposed for Violet before he died. Noah had announced the news at the Kingston banquet, but Violet hadn't thought about it again since. Now that she was hearing it from Noah again, she looked at Logan in reflex. He was also looking at her. They stared at each other for a long moment. Corey didn't know how to feel, but the atmosphere in the office had suddenly dropped below freezing point. Noah reminded them that if they found out who her grandfather had arranged for Violet to marry, it could be the answer they were looking for. Violet could meet the man, and then if she approved, follow her grandfather's wishes by marrying him. Then she would have a clear path to inheriting the Kingston family business. And Violet and her new husband could manage the Kingston Group together. Logan was scowling again. Leave it to Noah to bring up such a thing again. He was quite unhappy, but just as Logan was about to speak, his cell rang. It was Mike's number, so he excused himself and picked up the call. Logan had sent Mike to fetch George and bring him back to Los Angeles. Cars had been spotted following them along the way, and suspicious it might be someone who wanted to interfere with the operation. Logan had ordered Mike to bring some more people to the airport for extra security. When the Alexander family's private jet arrived at LAX, they were going to escort George off the plane, then bring him to Logan. As long as Mike was able to safely pick George up and bring him back to the house, Logan's promise to Violet would be fulfilled. However, on their way back, something terrible had happened. Mike informed Logan that there had been an accident, and that things weren't looking good for George. After the crash, George was already in a pretty bad state, but then during the ambulance ride to the hospital, he had fallen into a coma. The doctor said that, given George's advanced age, all they could do was monitor him and wait and see. Although Mike had also been injured in the crash, he was still afraid that Logan would punish him for failing his mission. If he couldn't even handle such a small matter, Mike feared Logan wouldn't trust him in the future to be his bodyguard. Was it because of a concussion that he's in a coma? Logan asked Mike now. No, the coma was caused by shock and serious degeneration of the body, which makes some people become vegetative. But the doctor told us there's hope. He said that George seems to have a strong survival instinct, and that there is still a possibility that he could wake up, Mike replied. When Mike finished reporting the situation, Logan also asked about the rest of the men who were sent to fetch George. Despite Mike's fears, Logan did not blame him and his men, but wanted to do what he could for them. Logan found out that Mike's injury was the lightest. He'd only broken his arm. The other 3 people's injuries were more serious. Logan said that he would help as much as he could. The Alexander family owned the hospital, so Logan promised he would let the facility know that no expense should be spared in providing Mike and his men the best medical care available. Logan then sent Corey to make sure that his wishes were conveyed personally to the hospital staff. After making sure that the hospital knew that these were Logan's people and that he was supervising their care personally, Corey then arranged for additional security personnel that would guard George and the men's rooms to ensure that nothing else happened. Since whoever was behind this attack hadn't succeeded, they all knew that the offenders would most likely return. Logan wouldn't rest until the guilty were caught and brought to justice. Let them rest assured that I am taking responsibility for everything. I will see that everyone recovers from their injuries and returns to the company safe and sound. Logan was mean, but he wasn't heartless. He wasn't going to fire them just because of a failed operation. But if he was to discover that there was a traitor among them, well, that would be a different story. He still had to investigate the accident thoroughly, so he asked Mike to review the operation from beginning to end. He wanted to find anything suspicious that they might have missed the first time. Someone must have tipped them off, Logan thought. Otherwise, how would they know where to attack and when? Logan was very suspicious. After hearing what he had to say, Mike also became suspicious. He didn't tell anyone else for the time being. He just wanted to observe them while he was in the hospital and find out if there were any moles inside the company. Thank you, boss. Mike was relieved and grateful to Logan for his support. Mike had often said that his boss could be like the devil, but the truth was that Logan may seem cold on the outside, but he had a heart. When he thought about it like this, Mike didn't feel any pain from his injuries caused by the mission. He just wanted to get to the bottom of the matter. He felt bad about not being able to protect George well. Thus, he told the doctor in advance to set up his room next to George's so that he would remain close by to watch over him. Is it very serious? Violet asked as soon as Logan hung up the phone. She had guessed that something bad had happened when Corey had left the office with a serious face, but she hadn't expected it to be related to George. When Logan told her what had happened, Violet was distraught. It's all my fault, isn't it? This wouldn't have happened if I hadn't asked you to find him for me. Violet's voice was trembling as she spoke. Logan wanted to go over and comfort her, but because Noah was still present, he had to maintain his cool exterior. So instead, Logan just awkwardly told Violet that he would take care of the matter and not to worry. He suggested she go home and rest for a while, but Violet continued to blame herself. When Mike found him, George told him he wanted to come back. George said he was ready to return to Los Angeles and deal with matters head on. This isn't your fault, Violet. Don't blame yourself. The doctor said he stands a good chance of recovery. We just need to trust the doctor and wait patiently. While Logan was trying to comfort Violet with his words, he saw Noah start to gently rub Violet's hand and pat it to calm down. Logan promptly went up to them and pulled Violet away from Noah and to his side in one swift motion. Logan no longer cared about appearances. He looked at Violet intently and asked her if she wanted to go lie down in the lounge and rest for a while. You look pale. If you're not feeling well, you should go rest, Logan told Violet. No, it's okay. I'm fine, thank you, Violet replied. That was Logan's private lounge she was referring to. Their relationship was already causing suspicion around the office. If they were to enter the lounge together, it would only cause further speculation and scrutiny. And then there was the fact that Noah was here. Noah, of course, knew about the intimate nature of Violet and Logan's relationship, but that didn't mean Violet felt like making any public blaze of affection. Violet's cheeks and ears turned red. She felt embarrassed in front of Noah. Noticing Violet's reaction, Logan turned his head to look at Noah impatiently and asked, Don't you have anything else to do? Somewhere to go? Didn't he see that Violet was uncomfortable? Why hadn't Noah left yet? Does this mean our meeting is over? Shouldn't we talk about what happened? Noah didn't notice Violet's red face because he was upset about George. No one knew that the accident was obviously courtesy of the Kingston family. No one except the Kingston family would have any reason to do such a thing to the man. They must have known that Logan was the one who had brought George back to Los Angeles for Violet, and yet they still tried to stop George's arrival. Clearly the Kingstons knew that things were changing in their fight with Violet, and that alliances were shifting. Logan didn't want to talk about the Kingstons, though, right now. He just wanted Noah to leave so he could comfort Violet. Yes, Noah, the meeting is over, Logan said through gritted teeth. Can't you see that Violet is uncomfortable? You can go. Now. We'll talk about this later. Bye. Logan finished with an abrupt wave. Noah was seriously irritating Logan today. Episode 178. Chloe Needs Cash. Chloe was helping out at the Kingston group offices because she wasn't happy that Lionel had hired a female secretary. She'd gone to her mother's office to complain. She couldn't understand why she had let Lionel hire a woman. She knew Chloe was insecure about Lionel cheating with Violet. Why would her mother want Chloe to have to worry about a new assistant too? And now Miranda had told her this was a good thing, as it would allow them to test Lionel's loyalty to Chloe. You can't be serious, Mother. Chloe was frustrated. Why would I want to test Lionel by putting temptation right outside his office door? It's the oldest cliche out there. A man hooking up with his secretary? Look at Logan and Violet, or you and Dad, for that matter. Chloe was nervous. There were too few high-quality men like Lionel left in Los Angeles. She knew there were plenty of women who, given the chance, would definitely pounce on him. She was not as confident as Miranda. I mean, she herself had stolen Lionel from Violet after all. What if he fell into someone else's trap? Where would that leave Chloe? What are you talking about? Miranda was cranky. Nothing bad happened with your father and me. I was working with him, and we fell in love. It was just a classic office romance. Charles didn't cheat, and you should be grateful. Without me, you wouldn't be here right now. Your father chose me because he has good taste. There is nothing untoward about it, Miranda added indignantly. Actually, Chloe really hadn't meant it like that. She was just tired and worried about Lionel. She'd said it without thinking. Chloe said nothing more. The more she thought about it, though, the angrier she got. Why did Miranda always protect Elizabeth? Why was she always thinking of her sister, not Chloe? She always left Chloe to figure things out on her own. Her mother couldn't even agree to find a male secretary for Lionel. She knew her mother thought Chloe was much more capable than her sister, and Miranda relied on Chloe. Chloe just wished her mother would have her back more often. In the end, though, Lionel was the most important person in Chloe's life. Everything she did was for the future of the two of them. So when she came out of Miranda's office, she went to find Lionel and took him for coffee. "Chloe, this is very nice, but you should sit and rest. You don't have to do things for me." Lionel had looked up from his desk when Chloe walked in. He had been reading the new cooperation contract with the Lorry Group. He and Garrett still had some details that they had to iron out. Lionel and Garrett had been in contact quite often recently, and they seemed to get along pretty well. Chloe was thrilled that Lionel could make friends with an ally like Garrett. Between his relationship with Garrett and her sisters, their alliance with Lorry Group seemed strong to her. They would need new friends if things with Logan continued to go south. "I wanted to do it," Chloe said as she moved toward Lionel's desk. "Seeing you makes me happy. You're so busy lately, it's rare for me to get to spend time with you. I wanted to come by and visit." Chloe sweetly handed the coffee to Lionel. Their fingers touched, and Lionel slightly flinched, smiled, and said that it was because the coffee was a little hot. "It's hot, but since it was you who brought it to me, I can't wait to drink it," Lionel told Chloe affectionately. Lionel could flatter a woman, long as necessary. He knew women needed to hear sweet words. When he was with Violet, he'd often acted coldly. He'd even ignored her at times. Lionel had to watch himself now if he wanted things to work out. Needed to keep Chloe happy. Seeing his current attitude towards her, Chloe was thrilled. Maybe she was needlessly worrying about his new secretary, given how much Lionel seemed to dote on her. "Do you think Mother is playing favorites? Only seems to be thinking of Elizabeth. She's really made me angry," pouted. "Love your sister. You're always looking out for Elizabeth, doing things for her. Why would your mother doing the same for Elizabeth make you unhappy?" Lionel asked. "Well, it's different. I'm choosing to help Elizabeth. I'm not being forced to help her," Chloe replied. "Your mother forced you?" Lionel asked Chloe. "No, not exactly. It's just I keep feeling like Mother is so supportive of Elizabeth, yet only nice to me when she needs my help." "Silliness are you talking about? Elizabeth is the future of the Kingston family. It's normal for Miranda to be concerned about her. And Miranda knows you're strong. Why not take her attitude towards you as a compliment?" Lionel offered. Chloe's heart simmered with spite. Future of the Kingston family? Chloe was the one who had been trying to secure the future of her family, not Elizabeth. Elizabeth was useless and couldn't even hold on to Logan, while Chloe worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure the Kingstons were successful. So what if what Chloe did for her family couldn't be openly discussed? She should still be getting credit. In her mind, one day she and Lionel would be running the Kingston group together. They were her family's real future. "Lionel, we'll never let Violet take away what's rightfully the Kingstons. One day, the Kingston group, Roland Entertainment, and all the other family assets will be ours. Together." Chloe looked at Lionel intensely. "Don't talk about this. No, I only care about you," a smiling Lionel told her. Chloe seemed to need to hear some more sweet words than he had thought to himself. "Oh, Lionel, you're the best. He only cares about her, not her inheritance." Chloe's head was full of sweet thoughts. Lionel's secretary wasn't there. Chloe wanted to be intimate with Lionel. Dare with her mother right down the hall? Chloe was about to get up and lock the door when her phone vibrated with an incoming message. She looked up at Lionel, who raised his eyebrows and tipped his chin, signaling Chloe should check her phone. She was afraid that Lionel would see the message, so she went to the bathroom and closed the door before opening her phone. Turned out that the woman had agreed to Chloe's conditions and would work with her. But before that, Chloe wanted to transfer $30,000 to her account. Chloe did not have access to that much cash, so she told the woman to hold on, and then quickly texted Elizabeth asking her for the money. Elizabeth was recently given money for her recent project, so before all that amount goes to Miranda, Chloe could get her hands on it and pay for this. It took a while, but finally Elizabeth replied with a message asking Chloe what the money for. Chloe then called Elizabeth, so nothing was in writing, told her about the plan. "Where did you find a pregnant woman? Are you sure this is going to work?" Pouted and asked in a somewhat aggrieved manner. Recently her life was not very good, and she was bullied everywhere. Everyone mocked and ridiculed her. "Oh, be sure about this. You just wait." And Violet would turn against each other and become enemies, Chloe murmured. "Chloe, are you really so sure? Don't forget that Violet's escaped consequences so many times before. Violet was saved by Logan. Elizabeth wondered sometimes if the universe was conspiring against them. Violet. See, Elizabeth. Will be promised her sister. As far as Chloe was concerned, her plan was brilliant. 2 birds, 1 stone, and all that. Not only would that woman lose the child Charles had put in her womb and not cause harm to her parents' marriage, but the plan would also ensure Violet would be spurned by others and ultimately abandoned by Logan. Chloe could not think of a more flawless plan, or how Violet could possibly escape this time. After Elizabeth agreed, she transferred the money to Chloe's account. Elizabeth made her own money. Miranda had taken over managing her accounts. Elizabeth wanted nothing, but still seemed to never have a penny to her name. Elizabeth's assistant was openly and covertly complaining that Elizabeth had recently spent a lot of money on Philly's advice. Her boss was also busier and distracted. When filming, Elizabeth was often late to the set, and many members of the crew had made complaints. If not for the delays caused by Elizabeth, they would finish filming at 6 or 7, and the crew could go home early enough to see their families. However, this never happened, because Elizabeth always kept. Her acting skills were mediocre at best, and she often needed multiple takes before remembering all her lines. Elizabeth was still using her ties to Logan to get work, but everyone was now whispering openly that with that relationship seemingly coming to an end, Elizabeth's career help would also be ending. At times, Elizabeth had treated her assistant like a friend, but now, like everyone, she was growing frustrated with Elizabeth. She was even thinking of quitting. Except for the credit card that Garrett had given her that one night, she had ceased receiving any perks because of her famous boss. However, Elizabeth was not listening to her or anyone else. Now, when she finished filming for the day, Elizabeth would go out partying, and she'd made questionable new friends. Elizabeth's assistant decided it was probably time for her to contact Gary Sloan, Elizabeth's manager, and report to him what was going on with Elizabeth. She didn't know if Gary would then, in turn, report back to Logan. And even if Gary did tell him, she wasn't sure Logan would even care. Episode 178. Chloe Needs Cash. Chloe was helping out at the Kingston group offices because she wasn't happy that Lionel had hired a female secretary. She'd gone to her mother's office to complain. She couldn't understand why she had let Lionel hire a woman. She knew Chloe was insecure about Lionel cheating with Violet. Why would her mother want Chloe to have to worry about a new assistant too? And now Miranda had told her this was a good thing, as it would allow them to test Lionel's loyalty to Chloe. "You can't be serious, Mother." Chloe was frustrated. "Why would I want to test Lionel by putting temptation right outside his office door? It's the oldest cliche out there. A man hooking up with his secretary? Look at Logan and Violet, or you and Dad, for that matter." Chloe was nervous. There were too few high-quality men like Lionel left in Los Angeles. She knew there were plenty of women who, given the chance, would definitely pounce on him. She was not as confident as Miranda. I mean, she herself had stolen Lionel from Violet after all. What if he fell into someone else's trap? Where would that leave Chloe? What are you talking about? Miranda was cranky. Nothing bad happened with your father and me. I was working with him, and we fell in love. It was just a classic office romance. Charles didn't cheat, and you should be grateful. Without me, you wouldn't be here right now. Your father chose me because he has good taste. There was nothing untoward about it, Miranda added indignantly. Actually, Chloe really hadn't meant it like that. She was just tired and worried about Lionel. She'd said it without thinking. Chloe said nothing more. The more she thought about it, though, the angrier she got. Why did Miranda always protect Elizabeth? Why was she always thinking of her sister, not Chloe? She always left Chloe to figure things out on her own. Her mother couldn't even agree to find a male secretary for Lionel. She knew her mother thought Chloe was much more capable than her sister, and Miranda relied on Chloe. Chloe just wished her mother would have her back more often. In the end, though, Lionel was the most important person in Chloe's life. Everything she did was for the future of the two of them. So when she came out of Miranda's office, she went to find Lionel and took him for coffee. Chloe, this is very nice, but you should sit and rest. You don't have to do things for me. Lionel had looked up from his desk when Chloe walked in. He had been reading the new cooperation contract with the Lorry Group. He and Garrett still had some details that they had to iron out. Lionel and Garrett had been in contact quite often recently, and they seemed to get along pretty well. Chloe was thrilled that Lionel could make friends with an ally like Garrett. Between his relationship with Garrett and her sisters, their alliance with Lorry Group seemed strong to her. They would need new friends if things with Logan continued to go south. I wanted to do it, Chloe said as she moved toward Lionel's desk. Seeing you makes me happy. You're so busy lately, it's rare for me to spend time with you. I wanted to come by and visit. Chloe sweetly handed the coffee to Lionel. Their fingers touched, and Lionel slightly flinched, smiled and said that it was because the coffee was a little hot. It's hot, but since it was you who brought it to me, I can't wait to drink it, Lionel told Chloe affectionately. Lionel could flatter a woman, long as necessary. He knew women needed to hear sweet words. When he was with Violet, he'd often acted coldly. He'd even ignored her at times. Lionel had to watch himself now if he wanted things to work out. Needed to keep Chloe happy. Seeing his current attitude towards her, Chloe was thrilled. Maybe she was needlessly worrying about his new secretary, given how much Lionel seemed to dote on her. Do you think Mother is playing favorites? Only seems to be thinking of Elizabeth. She's really made me angry, pouted. Love your sister. You're always looking out for Elizabeth, doing things for her. Why would your mother doing the same for Elizabeth make you unhappy? Lionel asked. Well, it's different. I'm choosing to help Elizabeth. I'm not being forced to help her, Chloe replied. Your mother forced you? Lionel asked Chloe. No, not exactly. It's just I keep feeling like Mother is so supportive of Elizabeth, yet only nice to me when she needs my help. Silliness are you talking about? Elizabeth is the future of the Kingston family. It's normal for Miranda to be concerned about her. And Miranda knows you're strong. Why not take her attitude towards you as a compliment? Lionel offered. Chloe's heart simmered with spite. Future of the Kingston family? Chloe was the one who had been trying to secure the future of her family, not Elizabeth. Elizabeth was useless and couldn't even hold on to Logan, while Chloe worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure the Kingstons were successful. So what if what Chloe did for her family couldn't be openly discussed? She should still be getting credit. In her mind, one day she and Lionel would be running the Kingston group together. They were her family's real future. Lionel will never let Violet take away what's rightfully the Kingstons. One day, the Kingston group, Roland Entertainment, and all the other family assets will be ours. Together. Chloe looked at Lionel intensely. "Don't talk about this. No, I only care about you," a smiling Lionel told her. Chloe seemed to need to hear some more sweet words than he had thought to himself. "Oh, Lionel, you're the best. He only cares about her, not her inheritance." Chloe's head was full of sweet thoughts. Lionel's secretary wasn't there. Chloe wanted to be intimate with Lionel. Dare with her mother right down the hall? Chloe was about to get up and lock the door when her phone vibrated with an incoming message. She looked up at Lionel, who raised his eyebrows and tipped his chin, signaling Chloe should check her phone. She was afraid that Lionel would see the message, so she went to the bathroom and closed the door before opening her phone. Turned out that the woman had agreed to Chloe's conditions and would work with her. But before that, Chloe wanted to transfer $30,000 to her account. Chloe did not have access to that much cash, so she told the woman to hold on, and then quickly texted Elizabeth asking her for the money. Elizabeth was recently given money for her recent project, so before all that amount goes to Miranda, Chloe could get her hands on it and pay for this. It took a while, but finally Elizabeth replied with a message asking Chloe what the money for. Chloe then called Elizabeth, so nothing was in writing, and told her about the plan. "Where did you find a pregnant woman? Are you sure this is going to work?" Pouted and asked in a somewhat aggrieved manner. Recently her life was not very good, and she was bullied everywhere. Everyone mocked and ridiculed her. "Be sure about this. You just wait. And Violet will turn against each other and become enemies," Chloe murmured. "Chloe, are you really so sure? Don't forget that Violet's escaped consequences so many times before. Violet was saved by Logan. Elizabeth wondered sometimes if the universe was conspiring against them. Violet. See, Elizabeth. Will be promised her sister. As far as Chloe was concerned, her plan was brilliant. 2 birds, 1 stone, and all that. Not only would that woman lose the child Charles had put in her womb and not cause harm to her parents' marriage, but the plan would also ensure Violet would be spurned by others and ultimately abandoned by Logan. Chloe could not think of a more flawless plan, or how Violet could possibly escape this time. After Elizabeth agreed, she transferred the money to Chloe's account. Elizabeth made her own money. Miranda had taken over managing her accounts. Elizabeth wanted nothing, but still seemed to never have a penny to her name. Elizabeth's assistant was openly and covertly complaining that Elizabeth had recently spent a lot of money on Philly's advice. Her boss was also busier and distracted. When filming, Elizabeth was often late to the set, and many members of the crew had made complaints. If not for the delays caused by Elizabeth, they would finish filming at 6 or 7, and the crew could go home early enough to see their families. However, this never happened, because Elizabeth always kept. Her acting skills were mediocre at best, and she often needed multiple takes before remembering all her lines. Elizabeth was still using her ties to Logan to get work, but everyone was now whispering openly that with that relationship seemingly coming to an end, Elizabeth's career help would also be ending. At times, Elizabeth had treated her assistant like a friend, but now, like everyone, she was growing frustrated with Elizabeth. She was even thinking of quitting. Except for the credit card that Garrett had given her that one night, she had ceased receiving any perks because of her famous boss. However, Elizabeth was not listening to her or anyone else. Now, when she finished filming for the day, Elizabeth would go out partying, and she'd made questionable new friends. Elizabeth's assistant decided it was probably time for her to contact Gary Sloan, Elizabeth's manager, and report to him what was going on with Elizabeth. She didn't know if Gary would then, in turn, report back to Logan. And even if Gary did tell him, she wasn't sure Logan would even care. Episode 179. Behind the Scenes. Elizabeth's assistant, Anita, was both irritated and worried about her famous boss. Anita was irritated, along with the rest of the production crew, that Elizabeth was missing her call times and showing up to set unprepared. She was causing expensive delays, yet Elizabeth didn't seem to care. All Elizabeth wanted to do was go out partying after work with Philly. Seemed Elizabeth knew she'd likely blown it with Logan, so now she just no longer cared about much else. This was why Anita was also worried about her famous boss. Anita had heard some nasty rumors about Philly recently. Even though Anita was the one who had first introduced Elizabeth to Philly, she now regretted it. Her boss was clearly dealing with a lot of things right now, and Anita didn't think Philly was the one who should be helping her through them. Anita had decided to talk to Elizabeth's manager about all this. She was hoping Gary might be able to talk to Logan about helping Elizabeth. And if that failed, well, Anita had also secretly contacted Garrett. Now she just had to see which brother would come to her boss's rescue. Chloe was in a good mood. Her latest plan was coming together well. She was pestering Lionel to leave work early so they could go home together, when she got a call from her mother. Miranda needed Chloe to come meet her at a restaurant in the valley. There had been a little incident, as her mother had put it. When Chloe arrived at the restaurant, she found her mother sipping tea. She waved Chloe over, then filled her in on the meeting she just had with Violet's lawyer, Noah. Miranda's description of her meeting was aided by all the photos and videos that Chloe scrolled through online while her mother relayed the story. "Did Noah say anything incriminating on tape?" Chloe asked her mom. She was the one who had given Miranda the recording equipment. Chloe had read Noah's cease and desist letter, and she knew her mom was trying to discredit him. "No, but all the bystander videos should help us raise doubts about Noah and his client, Violet," Miranda replied. "Question the relationship between the two of them, you mean?" Chloe asked. "Yes, that's right. We will try to tarnish his reputation by showing a lack of professionalism on his part with regard to Violet. And then hopefully Logan will come to his senses when everyone thinks his new little girlfriend is cheating on him with her lawyer." Miranda was still hoping that Logan would come to his senses about Violet and return to the Kingstons and Elizabeth. Miranda then told Chloe that Elizabeth had called her a short while ago asking for money. Elizabeth hadn't said why she needed the money, but given that she was no longer the girlfriend of the Smith Group CEO, with hundreds of thousands of dollars of pocket money given to her every month, not to mention all the lavish gifts, she was probably feeling the loss of income. Miranda wanted Elizabeth to live a carefree life. She shouldn't be worrying about the money, she told Chloe. "What are we going to do?" Miranda asked Chloe anxiously. "Well, actually, the money was for me, Mom. I asked Elizabeth for it," Chloe told her mother. Why? Wait, please tell me it's for some diabolical plot that will solve all our problems." Miranda looked hopeful for the first time since Chloe had sat down. So Chloe filled her mother in on the plan, currently being set in motion, editing out the part of who the father of the pregnant woman's baby was. Miranda listened quietly and was relieved at Chloe's initiative, but puzzled by her secretiveness. Miranda felt it was strange that Chloe hadn't told her anything about her plan. She seemed to only be sharing now because Miranda had brought up Elizabeth needing money. And why hadn't Elizabeth mentioned who or what the money was for either? But in the end, these were her daughters. Miranda did not have any reason to be suspicious of their intentions. Perhaps Chloe just didn't want to trouble her, or she wanted to protect her mother by keeping her ignorant of the matter. Chloe had volunteered the information in the end, so Miranda decided she'd let this go. But later, when Miranda asked Elizabeth what the money was for, Elizabeth was vague and just said she was getting to know a new friend and also needed to find someone to do some work. Miranda decided that while vague, This was close enough to what Chloe had said, without actually saying the money was for Chloe. Actually, Miranda was a bit relieved, as this meant Elizabeth hadn't given up and was still trying to think of ways to improve the relationship between her and Logan. On her end, Elizabeth felt that her mother did not seem to be in a very good mood. She asked Miranda if there was something wrong. "It has nothing to do with you. You must focus on being a big star and your relationship with Logan," Miranda told her. "Well, Violet has certainly made our relationship difficult. Mommy, Philly suggested finding a handsome man to get close to Violet, so Logan leaves her." "Think?" she asked her mother. "Well, we certainly should consider all angles. Right now, all I can think about is that damn will. We must come up with a way to make it invalid," told Elizabeth. "That will is the key to our success or our failure." Elizabeth suddenly remembered her conversation with Noah on the way to dinner at Logan's. It was about her grandfather's will. Elizabeth had tried to use her wiles on Noah to get any information that could prove useful out of him. Noah had mentioned that night that he was safeguarding the will. "Just send someone to snatch it back," Elizabeth now suggested to Miranda. "How hard can it be to steal a piece of paper? I know you and Chloe have contacts that would steal it for the right price. Don't be reluctant to spend money, Mommy. Sometimes you have to spend money, honey." Elizabeth was speaking the truth, so Miranda told her daughter she would think about it. First, they would have to figure out where Noah actually kept the will. Elizabeth was very proud on the other side of the phone. "Well, I just might be able to provide clues to its whereabouts as well." Violet had not been able to see George when she went to the hospital because he was in the ICU and in critical condition. She was planning to return when George was stabilized to a regular room. Tomorrow, she was going to tell Haley and Noah over dinner that Logan was Adam and Amy's biological father. They were going to be shocked, to say the least. Violet was very nervous. She was anxious to ask Noah how to handle this new situation with the children and what legal means were at her disposal if there was any sort of custody battle with the Alexander family. When Violet and Noah left the hospital, they didn't go back to small group. Instead, to Logan's house. Noah had asked his assistant to have his luggage brought to Logan's earlier. He wanted to make sure that, in the day's events, Violet got home okay, so Noah drove home with her. However, arrived safely back at Logan's place, Noah didn't even go inside the house. He was exhausted and told Violet all he wanted to do was go home and sleep. Violet had arranged for Henry to drive Noah home, so he helped Noah put his luggage into Henry's car. Noah and Violet were outside hugging goodbye when Logan pulled into the courtyard. Logan got out of his car and slammed the door. "Leaving so soon, Noah? What a shame. I was hoping you would stay and eat with us." "Violet, why didn't you invite Noah to stay for dinner?" Logan asked, as he took Violet by the hand and pulled her away from Noah. Logan's tone was cordial, but obviously completely insincere. Noah knew Logan was like this. He wanted to monopolize everything and everyone. But Logan was stubborn and would not admit it. "Or wait, why don't you spend the night, Noah? Violet's barely seen you at all today. I'm sure she would love to spend more time with her good and Noah." Episode 180. I'm alone. Logan was in a bad mood. Today had been a horrible day. First, speculation about the nature of Violet and Noah's relationship had gone viral. Then, Garrett decided to come to Violet's defense by putting out a personal statement. After which, Logan received a call that George was in a coma after an accident as Logan's men escorted him back to LA. At which point, a distraught Violet had dashed off to visit George in the hospital, accompanied by her shadow, Noah. And to cap it all off, Violet had run into trouble at the hospital only to be saved by Garrett. Logan was frustrated and maybe a bit jealous. Violet had spent time today with every man she knew except Logan. When Logan had tried to comfort her, Noah had gotten in the way. All Logan wanted now was to go home, spend some time alone with Violet. But when Logan pulled into his driveway, the first thing he saw was Noah and Violet standing outside, and they were hugging. His already dark mood went pitch black. He hastily got out of his car and slammed the door and grabbed Violet by the hand. "Well, seems like you and Violet have some things to talk about," Logan screeched. Noah told the scowling Logan, "Well, I am leaving. I need to go home and get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow. Violet, I'll text you the time we need to leave to pick up Haley at the airport." Violet nodded to Noah, and Logan grunted in response. Noah then got in the car. Henry nodded at Logan, and then set off to take Noah home. Only then did Violet notice that her hand was still in Logan's. She quickly pulled it back. Logan narrowed his eyes at her in displeasure. What a crazy day, Violet thought. She missed her kids. If she'd had any clue that Logan was the father of her children, she never would have gone to work for him. She certainly would never have agreed to move in with him. Now she was worried about what was going to happen next with the children and their father, a man who, as usual, was now looking at Violet with dissatisfaction on his face. Logan didn't like that Violet had hastily withdrawn her hand from his. He had wanted to touch her all day, and now she was rejecting him. She could hug Noah in his driveway, apparently, but not hold Logan's hand. She was supposed to be his woman, not Noah's. Didn't Violet understand that it was impossible for most people to get close to him? She should be rejoicing in the fact that Logan had chosen her. Damn it. "What's wrong?" Logan asked her. "I was just thinking how much I miss Adam and Amy. It's always been just the three of us. It feels weird to not have them with me." Violet did not dare tell Logan her concerns that the Alexander family would challenge her for custody. "You really never thought of looking for their father?" Logan raised his eyebrows. Why was he asking her that? Violet's back went stiff with tension. She didn't want to talk to Logan about this. Without answering, Violet turned and went into the house. Violet hastily greeted Zoe and Lee and then headed upstairs to change her clothes. But Logan followed her upstairs and into their room and shut the door so they were alone. He asked her again why she did not think of looking for him after that night 4 years ago. Violet, in frustration, turned to face him. "You really want to talk about this, Logan? Okay, then why would I want to look for you? After that night, I was chased out by the Kingston family. Then a car almost hit me and left me for dead." Violet decided that she had to be honest with Logan. "I thought that man, you, had hurt me intentionally. You were the last person I'd have wanted to look for." Logan felt like he'd been punched in the gut. A pang of guilt went through him. She was right, of course. Violet had thought Logan assaulted her. Logan had felt a connection to Violet after that night, but all she'd felt was pain and resentment. And then there was that story again, the one Violet had previously told him about almost being hit by an expensive car, and then the driver hastily driving off. That story was familiar to Logan. Suddenly felt the same as Violet. He didn't want to talk about this anymore. Both felt awkward and neither said anything for a long moment. Finally, Logan spoke, changing the subject to something he thought might improve both of their moods. Logan told Violet that he would be traveling to Europe next month on a business trip. He asked Violet if she wanted to go with him. She could bring the children with them. "Obviously, I'll be working, but there should be plenty for you to do and see. Then when I'm done with work, we can enjoy the trip together," Logan explained. Violet blinked her large eyes in surprise and looked at Logan. Logan had caught her off guard by changing the subject so quickly. She certainly hadn't expected after everything that had happened, that Logan would end the day by inviting her to go to Europe with him. Violet finally smiled at him. Serious. I would love to go, and so would the children. Violet beamed at Logan. Then he thought of something that would make the trip even better. Can we invite Noah and Haley to join us? It'd be so much fun having them along. Violet looked at Logan hopefully. Blink of an eye, Logan put away his smiling face. The dimple on his cheek disappeared in an instant. He coughed lightly and frowned. What is it? Violet did not understand. The last person Logan wanted to bring on his vacation with Violet? Noah. But Haley would be there, and it would make Violet happy. Inwardly, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, posed. Not that Noah was his enemy. He actually liked the man, just not his close friendship with Violet. So even though Logan was going to agree, he decided he'd let Violet convince him. You want to bring Haley and Noah? Your performance tonight best be plus. Logan told her with a devilish glint in his eye. Violet was stunned, silent for a moment. Realized what Logan was getting at. Then, with a small smile, she rose up on her tiptoes, slid her arms around his neck, and kissed him. A short time later, they heard Zoe calling to them that dinner was ready, but neither of them cared. Violet missed her children, and they missed their mommy, but Agnes had planned so many fun activities for them that they had not had any time to call Violet. It had only been 2 days, but the twins had already won not only Agnes's heart, but the whole staff's. No one in the old residence dared to ignore the children because of Agnes, but since they were such good kids, they also didn't mind. Alex especially had taken to the twins. Sometimes Agnes would ask Adam and Amy about their lives abroad. The more she learned, the more she hated their mother. She believed it was because Violet was chased out by the Kingston's family in disgrace that her 2 great-grandchildren had suffered so much and had so little. Agnes would recognize her great-grandchildren as they were her own flesh and blood. If Violet thought she would be welcomed into the Alexander family, then she was sorely mistaken. The paperwork is being processed. Children will be taking the Alexander name. Because Agnes didn't intend to let Violet ever become a member of her family, she didn't much care what Violet thought about the children's name change. Let her complain. Logan was their father, so the children should be Alexander's, not Kingston's. Name change will be announced at the press conference. We need to make sure everything goes smoothly. Agnes then dictated a list of things Alex needed to do for the event. Adam and Amy were playing games and building blocks with Mary nearby. During their game, they suddenly raised their heads to ask if they could see Mommy after school tomorrow. Isn't it good to be with your great-grandmother? Agnes asked reproachfully. Sure, but I still miss Mommy and Uncle Logan, Amy pouted. You call him? Agnes asked Amy while pretending to be angry. Uncle Logan. But you want me to say Daddy, Amy replied a bit uneasily and looked at her brother beside her. You must remember that from now on, both of you are descendants of the Alexander family and its future heirs. Forget this, Agnes instructed them. Since they were Logan's children, they would naturally be taught the ways of the family heir. Unlike many in her generation, Agnes was progressive. She didn't care if her heir were male or female. Boy or girl, Agnes would treat them equally. If we remember, then can we see Mommy tomorrow? Adam asked Agnes hopefully. Amy looked up at her. Yes, we really want to see our Mommy. Alex looked at Agnes. Mrs. Alexander, I know what you are planning. Children need their mother. Might I make another suggestion?